If you think Brexit is bad, here is a real crisis for you. Britain is soon going to have more grandparents than grandchildren. Like most of Western Europe, our fertility rate is so low, it's not even enough to maintain the current size of our population. Better access to contraception, more women in work, and better healthcare mean that unless we encourage immigration, which is unlikely, we will soon begin to shrink. British women who do have children are performing just about the most valuable public service imaginable, ensuring the survival of the nation. Are we encouraging these women to have children? No. Women are becoming mothers in spite of just about every disincentive society could throw at us. We millennial women can expect a hefty wage penalty for having children, opening up a pay gap of 9% compared to men by the time we're 30. Fathers may now be eligible for shared parental leave, but it's such a bad deal that only 2% of them are taking it up. Maternity discrimination is rife, and the impact of austerity falls squarely on the shoulders of mothers. If this is gratitude towards the fundamental public service mothers play, we sure have a strange way of showing it.
So, Afua, yes, I think you mentioned paternity leave. I'm glad you did, because I think that's one of the imbalances, and perhaps I will even use the word discrimination against fathers that needs to be addressed. And that may well help with the gender pay gap that you referred to, because, of course, the gender pay gap and the figures around it, I often find, aren't as straightforward as they initially appear to be. There are other structural issues that, yes, lead to an inequality in the pay between men and women. But unless the law changes, for example, it's not simply a matter of discrimination. There are, as in by men in the workplace, there are systemic discriminations in place legally, and paternity leave is one of them. But moving to the immigration and population subject. Yes, immigration, I think, needs to continue to this country, but it needs to be controlled and measured. I don't endorse the whole Merkel-style open-door policy, and I think actually the way it's backfired in Europe with the rise of far-right populist movements is a case in point as to why we need to, I think, intricately tie immigration with integration in all aspects of that and meanings of that word, including economic and educational, so that we can actually control and manage the entire process. And the last thing I'll say is that it's not necessarily a given that declining birth rates are a bad thing, because globally, in fact, immigration cannot be the solution to this problem, especially as there is a correlation between decreasing poverty and declining birth rates. And actually, the world overall is getting less and less poor. And so I think actually we need to start looking at some technological solutions for this issue as well on a global level, not now specifically in Britain. And it may well be wonderful for the environment if the virus on this planet known as the human species reproduces less, actually.
No, I have sat here and said, I've sat here and said that we need to talk about the impact that having children has on the climate and on the environment. So I completely agree. But my point is, I don't disagree with anything you've said. I just don't hear this debate being had in rational terms. So I'm not trying to make an argument for immigration here. I'm saying we have an issue here. What is our strategy for dealing with this?
If we're talking about globally, one of the world's most renowned population analysts said we have to cut the world population. He said this about 3 years ago. He said the planet is designed to be able to look after, in terms of resources, about 1.5 to 2 billion people. Now we have 7. By 2050, we'll have 9 billion. So he says he's gloomy about our prospects of looking after the people we have, never mind increasing it. But I think one of the let's talk about immigration, where this year was a 6-year high on immigration from outside the EU. So when you take away the commas and the levers, what was left was 282,000 people staying in it. These are young people. They're going to be having kids. They're going to be working. They're not the old people that we're going to have to look after. That is actually amazing. So we don't have to... We had 101,000 from the EU. So that's 400,000 our population has increased by this year, which is astonishing. We can't afford to increase it any more than that.
This isn't about immigration. This is about the birth rate.
The population you're talking about.
What are these?
So are you saying that you welcome immigration, that we should continue to have immigration at levels to replace the shrinking population we have as a result of
I'm saying the population isn't shrinking.
It is shrinking. That's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
It's published in the Lancet.
Carol's counted the world's population.
Do you not actually want to say... No, it has not.
Let me show you our fertility rate. I have it. This is our fertility rate. This is our fertility rate. Our fertility rate is 1.7. That is not enough as a simple matter of fact to sustain the current population. That is a fact,
Carol. The point about the increasing population globally is a fact. There's no question about it. India, for example, is going to overtake China very soon as the most populous country in the world.
Yes.
The Chinese birth
That'll be
rate,
good
because
for beer,
of their...
That'll be all right for you. Happy days. No wonder you're smiling. They all drink, you know. They all need a beer.
And because of China's one-child policy, their birth rate, of course, has been declining hugely. Yeah. And if you look at the disparity in birth rates, some of the African countries at the moment, you've got birth rates of 7, 6, 5. We're at less than 2. And to sustain your population, you need a minimum of 2.1. There are European countries now, like Cyprus is at 1. You know, you have countries like South Korea at 1.2. Poland is 1.3. So, you know, how... And when it comes to immigration, here's the fact. The Conservative Party keeps saying, we've created 3 million jobs in the time we've been in government. Well, let's hang on. How many European Union citizens are there over here? 3.5 million. And what's our unemployment rate? 4%, the lowest in living memory. Without those 3 million people from the European Union, we'd have an acute labour shortage.
But I don't understand why you say we discriminate
what's
against...
This let me get in. What are these disincentives of people having children? Let's come back to the UK. Never mind Africa and you making money out of beer. Just calm down for half an hour. Let's get back to the UK.
The Equality and Human Rights Commission found that the employment rate for women with children is 75% against 91% for men. Over the 20 years of a child's life, the pay differential between a mother and a father is 30%. Right. 77% of working mothers report having been discriminated against, denied promotions, having their salaries capped, and overlooked promotions because they are parents.
First 2 kids, you get tax credits for kids.
I mean, when my mum got nothing when I came along. Mind you, the Romans were still here, so it was a bit different. There's nothing...
They get money for nursery care. They get tax credits. They get money for healthcare. Why are you laughing at that?
Because tax credits are not even a drop in the ocean of the hit you take to your income, your earning prospects, and your opportunities when you have a child. Now, I chose to be a mother. It's a huge privilege. Exactly. But the point is, when I had a child, my mentality was, this is something I've chosen, and it's a privilege for me. And in a way, society is doing me a favour by letting me. And it's only recently I've started to realise that actually society needs women to have children. This society, unless you want immigration to replace the British population, you need British...
They're not going to stop having children.
Well, the point is we are disincentivising women from doing it, and the results are clear.
Yes, of course.
Our fertility rate has halved in the last 40 years.
So do you think the government should pay for every person who has every child? Let the government pay for everything.
Well, Carol, I'm saying we need to work out how to create an environment that allows women who have children to thrive.
In India, I'll give an extreme example of this. I come from one of the smallest communities in the world. There's Zoroastrian Parsis. In India, we are now down to 59,000 out of 1.3 billion people. Really? And the government is actively, it's got adverts that it's put out to the Parsi population, please have more children.
How big typically is a family from your community?
Well, many of them don't have children or don't get married.
But are highly educated, aren't they?
Very highly educated.
I think that's the correlation there again.
So there is, I mean, you know, here's an extreme example, and we might be extinct in years to come. It is that's
but
worrying.
Also, it's women's choice, Afua. A lot of women have changed. 30 years ago, women stayed at home because that's what they wanted to do and to bring up their babies. These days, women want to do both. They want to work and have babies.
I am all in favour of choice. Babies. I'm not saying we should be forcing women to have children. I'm saying women are choosing not to have children. Can we please have a conversation about the reasons why, if it's all choice, but many women are saying, I've chosen not to have children, or I've chosen to only have one child
reasons, not
because I can't afford it. I'm talking about facts, surveys that have been done on women with children.
Guys, I tell you what.